Hey there. I'm back from the ATD 2025 conference. It's so recent that I'm still hoarse from the conference. But I wanted to share a few thoughts about something that happened at the conference in the community conversation that I hosted around generative AI. And it's something really worth sharing and something I think we all want to be grappling with and thinking about. So a lot of times we talk about AI transformation and AI is changing L&D and AI this and AI that and AI everything. But when we talk about it in one big chunk, like it's a thing, a monolithic thing, then we miss a lot of the nuances. And in fact, we miss a lot of the connections and the learning because we're operating at different levels. And so I've been working on this concept of 3 layers or 3 zones of AI impact. And things operate differently in those 3 zones. And that proved out in the conversation we had at ATD. So here's where it is. Zone 1 is our own productive capacity. So it's our own productivity improvements, right? Zone 1, using my conversational chatbots to flesh out ideas, to summarize notes. I'm using tools to create voiceover, tools to take the first stab at transcribing, tools to do translation, those kinds of things, right? Dump in a bunch of content and say, give me a first draft of a course outline if these are my course objectives, or write me multiple choice questions, right? Tons and tons of things we can be doing. And in this zone, L&D can operate pretty much independently as long as you follow your organization's rules and policies for making sure that you are following the safety and the security and the privacy regulations within your organization, regulations, policies, right? You're in good shape. You probably don't need a lot of oversight outside of the L&D function. And this is where there's a lot of action happening, a lot of traction happening, and a lot of conversation on LinkedIn. Okay. Zone 2 then, a zone 2 AI impact area is in the learner's experience. So zone 1, right, is just in our experience as an L&D professional. Nobody even sees it, right? In zone 2, we're then putting the AI in front of the learner. So whether that is an AI coach, an AI chatbot, and a role play example, or something that is mediated, AI-driven pathing and recommendations in your learning experience platform or your LMS, right? So that's in front of the learner. Again, L&D drives here. You're following your organization's rules and policies about bringing in new technology. You're connecting in with your organization's data sets and content, following all those rules. But L&D still is in the driver's seat here. And I found that too, right? So even those 2 zones were interesting to watch in the conversation because people were then thinking, I think differently about AI that impacts my job then I might think about AI that impacts the learning experience itself for the learner, right? There's additional considerations, right? All the same privacy, security, intelligent use, right? Our WISE at AI framework, right? But there's that additional layer because now I'm interacting and engaging with the learner with this tool, right? I have additional guidelines. I have additional transparency, maybe even different accountability considerations when I'm in that space. Certainly different equity and inclusion considerations when I'm in that space. Okay. AI impact zone 3, though, is different. Zone 3 is when the AI is happening in the business. And this transformation over here affects what L&D does. Right? And so this transformation is what we read about in the general business press, right? In the general business press, nobody's talking about AI-enabled e-learning tools, right? In the general business press, they're talking about AI-enabled insurance claims processing or supply chain moderation, those kinds of things, right? And so this, right, when we change the business processes, this changes, right? There's an impact on L&D. Either we have new content, right? New things to teach people because the business process has changed, or fewer people to train because the business process has changed, or a different skill set of people engaging in the business process, or a bunch of people who used to be doing this business process who are no longer doing this business process. They can do something else, and we need to help them take that next step to that next point in their career, right? And so what we're seeing that happens in this AI impact zone number 3 is that L&D is not always at the table when those decisions are being made. That business process, that business transformation is happening, and nobody's thinking, hey, I'm going to call up L&D. I'm going to call up my learning folks and find out how they can help us. Right? And is this any different than what happens with any other transformation in the organization? No. Okay, let's just be perfectly honest. It's not AI that's driving this. This is how organizations work. And so here's where work in what we're seeing, and I'm spending a lot of time around power dynamics in the organization, right? Who invites whom to the table when they're making a big decision? How do we build a strategic network by which our value is appreciated and we offer that value? Instead of sitting there and whining and complaining that we're just being treated like order takers, how do we take those proactive steps to be in that room, to build that credibility, to build that collaboration and that engagement, right? And we want to be there at that table having that conversation. And that's really an appropriate place where once we have mastered and gotten over our, oh my gosh, it's artificial intelligence in zones 1 and 2, we need to be playing in zones 3 with the rest of our businesses. So this is an interesting challenge for us over here. And what's really been fascinating in that conversation at ATD was that where there's lots of people are saying, yes, I'm using AI tools in my regular work, probably 80% of the room, right? Probably 50 to 60% of the room were either using or exploring the use of AI in zone 2, right? In that learner facing zone. And that's where you're often you are working with vendor partners to build you something, right? You're buying something from your vendor partners. There's a ton of considerations there. But this zone 3 in a room of probably 60 people, only 2 people in L&D in that room were engaging with their businesses in zone 3, and they did not get called in first. So this is an opportunity for all of us to step up and engage, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that.